Good afternoon, everyone. The 4 o'clock hour is upon us, and I know that it is Friday, and several of you have other plans other than to be looking at me on a Friday evening. So we're going to respect your time and go through a bit of the presentation and actually sharing of information. And then actually we'll use the time today to the 11 individuals that are with us online currently to utilize the chat feature as much as we can. Thank you to our web host for this evening, Ms. Audrey Curls, our technology director for the Tyrrell County School System. She will be administering the background operation of the software tonight for me, so thank you. So at the bottom of the screen, for those of you, since we've been in this remote schedule or format for the last couple of months, I just want to familiarize you with the software program that we're using today. We are using Zoom, and if you look at the bottom from your screen, you should see a Q&A button. We're going to use that Q&A button for information. If you have questions, I'm going to try to respond to them. And one thing that I wish I could do, I wish I could change the Q&A feature to stay Q&R because quite honestly, some of the questions that I may get posed, I may not have an answer for. They may just be a response. And so I wanted to take this time to to address questions and provide responses, and as clear as I can, some answers. As you are aware, for those, thank you for joining us. We'll have another session that has been scheduled for the 10th of November, where I will share some of the same information that I have tonight to that group of individuals, but any additional updates, as all of this is a continuing, moving scenario, as you've been made aware ever since March the 16th. So tonight I plan on giving you a little more background of what is taking place in Tyrrell County Schools, some of the hard work that our staff members have been doing so that we can answer and address and start providing additional information as we all look to the return of students here in Tyrrell County Schools. So once again, to our web host on the backside, Ms. Curls, thank you. And I hope that everything that I just said was able to be heard. So tonight I want to start off with just a brief update. As you heard me say, at the several board meetings that we had recently, the decision was made that we would hold off until January for this return of our students. As we are looking across our nation, as we're looking in our region, we are seeing and following up with the Washington Martin Tyrrell Health Department and following their guidance and their information. Numbers are going up in our region. Numbers are going up in our state, and numbers are going up in the country as it relates to the COVID-19 virus. But we are being proactive, as we have been in the beginning, ever since the shutdown of March 16th, and been working to make sure that, as I always say, we provide the safest learning environment that we can for our students and our staff members as it relates to a work and learning environment. But just as we go through that, I want to talk to you about the few steps that we have taken, or not the few steps, but a couple of the steps that we have taken to ensure safety for our students and our staff once we return. Doug Patrick, our director of maintenance, and his whole team and our custodial staff have been working very hard, as they have sometimes taken on new assignments and new duty roles as it becomes, quite honestly, all of us pitching in to make sure that we have what we need. The district has installed over 60 hand sanitizing stations within our buildings. If you've been in the buildings, and for the teachers that are on, you've seen them around the building. We have put them at strategic points of contact in all of our school campuses and at central office so that we can provide sanitizer to students and guests that enter our building. Our staff can tell you, as they have been entering the buildings at their places of work, before they enter the building, they have to go through a COVID screening. So our staff members are going through those COVID screenings right here, myself at central office. When I arrive to the office every day, I have to check my temperature and go through the questions as well before I can even begin my day at work. So those 60 hand sanitation stations have been put up at all of our school sites and properties. We have also, as a district, we have ordered face shields and face masks for every staff member in the district. Many of you have seen the plastic shields, and I should have had one in here tonight, but I apologize. We have purchased those for any staff member that needs those within the district. We have also provided cloth face coverings for all students and staff members of Tyrrell County schools. Many of you may have seen earlier on, as the state was realizing where we were with the pandemic, you may have heard of the purchase of PPE materials to school systems in the state, where we did receive cloth white face masks for every student and every employee in the district. However, what the state did not realize is that those cloth face masks that they purchased and provided for all school systems did not fit our smaller students that we typically have at Tyrrell Elementary School. So as a district, we have regrouped and we have ordered over 1,000 disposable children's-sized masks that our students can use at Tyrrell Elementary so they can have them, as well as 5 individual cloth face masks that meet the CDC and the state North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services guidelines, that those will be issued to every child at Tyrrell Elementary School. The ones that the state provided us that went to Tyrrell Elementary School, we're going to pull those back and save those and have those as extras for our middle school students and our middle school staff members and our high school students and our high school staff members. So we'll have double that we need, but every employee got 5 of those issued from the state. As a district, we also purchased what I refer to as the blue face mask. Those are the face masks that you may see individuals around in the district. And thank you, Ms. Yancey. She's listening in the other room. So she brought an example of the face shield that I was describing. This is the plastic face shield that we did provide for all of our staff members in the district. So thank you, Ms. Yancey. She's always on spot. I love that lady. She's a big help to not only me, but to the district. But as I was stating, we will provide those, provided those blue face masks as well. One of the things that we did find from some of our parents and our stakeholders, and if you did, or you do have a student that is a smaller student, we did find out after ordering that there was a small rubber piece that fastens behind the ear that could be something that could cause a problem. As we get closer to school starting, we'll be sending out a message to kind of talk to our families about removing that plastic piece and basically tying off the earpiece so that cloth face mask will help your students. I can tell you at the elementary school, Ms. Cheryl Hams and that team there, they have decided to hold those blue cloth masks as an emergency backup for you. So in case your child soils or something happens to your child's face mask that you send them to school, we're keeping an extra one there so that we can issue to your child. Also, we have provided all school sites with disinfectant wipes, and we are still ordering. Stuff is still coming in. These are the alcohol and sanitizing wipes that can be used at a quick moment's notice. We did purchase the handheld thermometers. The state provided us with 9. We bought an additional 25, I believe. However, looking at the CDC guidelines, if you have to physically scan an individual or a student with that one hand unit, that takes a lot of time. That also puts you within that 6-foot barrier of concern right now. So what we did as a district, we ordered and they shipped, and I think they arrived in the district this week for 9 walk-through temperature screeners. These 9 devices will be set up at all of our schools. I think the elementary has 3. I think it's 2 going to the high school. There are other points of contact, 1 going in the gym, and the middle school will have 1 and we will have 1 here. But those devices will be set up. The reason we purchased those is because when it comes down to getting our students in the classroom, actually, and getting our staff members in the building, we can get students in at a quicker rate with the walk-through thermometers. We are actually working with a neighboring county, quite honestly, one of my former districts that I worked in, who did return back into face-to-face instruction, but they have a reduced capacity. I'll be taking a team of 8 administrators and individuals from our district over to visit them so that we can walk through their process as we prepare for January the 4th for our return. One of the other things is that we've done in the district, and this may sound minuscule, but it's not. When I arrived in the district, I was made aware that our teachers did not have district issued laptops. Well, we did not know in October of 2018 that we would have the pandemic of 2020 on us. But thankfully, we were able to purchase district laptops and get those devices in the hands of our staff members so that now, even in remote instruction, every one of our teachers have a reliable district device that they can complete and use to provide instruction to our students. One of the other things is that each one of our classrooms have been outfitted with hand sanitizer, well, not hand sanitizer, I'm sorry, but with sanitizing spray. Working through our Department of Health and Human Services, our maintenance department in the state, and actually OSHA, we were able to be a district where we have reached out and we have received a certified solution that could be used in the classroom in between a class change. So let's say as we release and you get final details on what school is going to look like in January, there will have to be mass breaks scheduled. And so in between, let's say a class change and the full cleaning of the custodial staff, our teachers will have a quick bottle in case they need to hit or they feel more comfortable spraying down their classrooms at some point in time. One of the other things that we did buy was, many of you may have seen on news and more coverage across, local and national news, electrostatic sprayers. We purchased electrostatic sprayers and have those on every campus site in our district. We actually are waiting for 3 more to arrive. We actually have one that is placed at the middle school, high school campus, and we have one that's at the elementary school campus. So right now, we do have devices where we can go in and electrostatically spray an approved chemical for cleaning to provide an additional level of sanitation for our students and staff. One of the other things is, like I said, we're waiting on additional units to come in. But even though those devices arrived, we took time to train each one of our custodial members in the proper use of said machine and any type of cleaning disinfectant that we are now switching to. A lot of times people get concerned around what is being used. We were very, very adamant that anything that we put into our building had to clear all of the OSHA regulations and have as least effect on anybody that would be an employee or visitors. Please understand that we know that we cannot meet and make sure that we do not trigger the allergies of everyone, but the solutions that we have purchased have been rated by the USDA to be used around in food prep scenarios and even in childcare facilities. So that is what we will be using. Also, we install sneeze guards. I don't know if you've been in my office, but I think one of the greatest examples is at the elementary school. As I say, Ms. Bernice is in the fish bowl. For those of you that know Ms. Bernice, she likes her fish that are in her fish tank across the room, but now it appears that Ms. Bernice is in a fish tank. But we did install the sneeze guards, not only in their office, but around the district. Different offices and classrooms will get those. Ms. Carol and I are working with a vendor to actually get individual desk shields. One of the things that we were thinking is, where else can we provide additional safety measures for our families and our students and our staff? And so we are investigating and working with a vendor to get foldable 3-way trifold desk shields, and we're trying to get those in as well. But we also are working with our CTE department. I say CTE department. Thank you, Ms. Kaminsky. I don't know if she's with us tonight, but her department, they are working on, how you go into restaurants and malls and different businesses, they have the spacers on the floor. Tyrrell Elementary has always had their spacers on the floor, so they are utilizing that. But we're also putting directional signs and other materials in our buildings to help not only our students, but our guests make sure that they can do the best to follow the social distancing recommendations set forth by the CDC. We do have a couple of things else that I have for you. Please, bear with me. I know I'm doing a lot of talking right now, but I definitely want to get what I have to get out, and then I will look at the Q&A as I see we have 3 questions in there. But for transportation, please let me know. I want to let you know that we are down drivers in our department. For those of you that are local in our community and went to vote, we tried to get signs up at our local polling places and even put the bus out, which has been out at 64 in front of my office here for about the last month and a half. We are still looking for bus drivers. If you have family members or individuals in your family that are looking for employment, please have them to reach out to me or to reach out to Dr. Boone, our Director of Human Resources, as we are still looking for bus drivers. We need bus drivers. We can do all the planning we want to get school to reopen, but if I don't have the bus drivers to drive the buses, it's going to make it a little bit harder. I do understand that when that time comes and families feel comfortable, they will be making decisions if their child are going to ride the bus or if their child is actually going to be dropped off. But definitely, we do need multiple bus drivers in addition to what we have now. With that, with returning to schools, the guidance around transportation has not changed. I am still only allowed to transport one child per seat. The only way that I can have an additional child on a seat is if it isn't a child from the same household. So if you on the phone or you on the call with us or on Zoom with us today, you're in a family of two, your two children can sit on the seat together because they come from the same household. But if not, I can only put one child per seat. Well, that now reduces my capacity, and we are actually looking at having to run multiple routes during the day to get students back in school come January. But we're also going to be working on that and finalizing. You'll be receiving information around the attestation form. And I know that I'm holding it up and you're probably looking like, I can't read this, but that is not a problem. I will get with Ms. Curls and we will put this on our website as well as the other document that I'm going to show you. But required by law, before your child can get on a school bus, you have to provide us with documentation that you have asked your child the 3 questions. 1, have they been exposed or close contact within 15 minutes of someone who is tested positive for COVID? Does your child have any of the symptoms of shortness of breath, difficulty with breathing, new cough, or loss of taste or smell? And you also have to let us know that since your child has last left school, have you or anybody or them been diagnosed with COVID-19? That form has to be turned in every day from the parent. We're working on the best way to do that so that it won't cause you any troubles in the morning, as we know that when school reopens, you're back into your grind of getting back to work or going and trying to get kids out. And that's a new realm for some people at this time, but we're working to make that as smooth as we can. But that attestation form will be on our website, and it is a requirement by the state that you provide those 3 questions and the temperature for your child every day before they get on the bus. If they don't, our bus drivers will then have to do that for you. We will be meeting and scheduling a meeting with our bus drivers in the upcoming weeks so that we can train each one of our bus drivers on that process. And as we move closer, we will continue to release videos and information to our families to show you how to do that as well. The other thing that we will be doing is utilizing a QR code. This QR code is going to be set up where it will be posted on the bus and in every building in our district. For those of you that are tech savvy, this is another way that you can answer that attestation. You will take your temperature, or we will take your temperature. You will utilize your cell phone camera feature. You will scan the QR code, and it will actually pop up a survey where you can answer those 3 questions. When those 3 questions are answered and you provide us with the name information and some temperature, your temperature that you received on your thermometer, that goes into a record that we have to keep. All of us have now come familiar with the term contact tracing. This will allow the district to be able to contact trace in the event that we do have a positive on our campus. These 2 things are important. They are requirements for the state. Truly, we understand that some days in a hurry, you may forget it. That's why as a district, our team will be trained to assist you in taking those attestations if needed. But we really need for you as parents and family members to do those before the kids get on the bus, because that will then allow us to stay on track with picking our students up. Also, with all of this, I'm turning to my notes, I apologize. We made some additional purchases for our custodial staff. You have to think about our custodians, our nurses, our teachers as well. We purchased gowns and additional PPE materials to make sure that they have what they need to safely carry out their job functions. We provided safety glasses for them, as these individuals are now very well possible going to be the first line of defense of going into a situation, or where if there is a tested positive case, we will be having to clean the buildings. I have reached out, and as a backup, I have a professional company on standby that just in case we get to the point that we need a higher level of cleaning done, I do have a professional company who is affiliated, and they take care. They take when the norovirus hit in the cruise ship lines. This was the company that was assigned to do that work for Carnival and those cruise industries. And so we have a connection where if we ever get to that point that we need a higher level than what we can provide with our professionals, we do have a contract service that we can utilize as well. Also wanted to give you and let you know that before I stop and check the chat feature, that I want to thank our Board of Education because they have been very proactive throughout this whole process, as it is all learning. As I've shared with this group here and many of you that I see that are popping up, this is a very difficult time to be in leadership. It is a very difficult time. So our board members are faced with facts and figures and decisions that nobody has ever thought of. Our principals are dealing with facts and figures and decisions that they have never had to deal with. And our teachers and our staff are in the same boat. Our teachers, when they got that call that we were on remote instruction, many of them had not taken or had not been adequately transitioned, and not just our teachers, just teachers in general. They had to adjust on the fly. As our former interim superintendent, Travis Twyford used to say, we were playing, it was a point where we were building the plane and flying it. But I can tell you that we have some great pilots in Tyrrell County schools, because even with the issues that we have experienced and the newness of it all, our teachers have been very dedicated to making sure that we can give you the best experience that we can, giving the factors that we can control. But also with the board, as I was stating, the board is very adamant that they would like to take the financial burden off of as many of our families as we can. They have authorized me to purchase as many school supplies or back to school supplies that we can to offer our families, because we know that all of us are experiencing some hard times right now. So whereas you used to get an announcement about school supplies, each one of the principals have sat down with our department, and we have gone through and made a list to purchase a lot of school supplies in relation to notebook, paper, pencils, crayons, markers, just to alleviate some of the costs to our families as we look at reopening come January the 4th. Also, I have a note here to kind of talk about briefly from our AD, Mr. Mike Cole. If you have not seen the message, there was a message, or should be a message, going out, as even though we are in the midst of COVID-19, the decision was made that we're looking at trying to prep to run athletics as it comes in December. Our practices cannot start until December the 7th. However, we have to be proactive and have things lined up. AD Cole has a message that has gone out for parent meetings for those that need additional information or to get paperwork in case we do have athletics and the state does clear us. He has 3 meetings scheduled for next week. One is on Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, but it is imperative that you sign up because we have to do it in small groups. So please look out for that information on our website, our Facebook page, and the phone call that may have gone out already, because we have to have small groups. Those meetings are going to be scheduled from 4 to 7. This will be in a time that the state is requiring us to share video information with all of our families around athletics and the safety precautions that have to be put in place. And you have to fill out new information for your student if they desire to play any sport in Tyrrell County schools. So please look out for that information as well. At this time, I'm going to pause from my notes. I have other information that I would like to give you, but I see our Q&A growing. For those individuals that have joined us, I told the group earlier that this feature does say Q&A, which means questions and answers. But as of right now, just with everything as it relates to COVID-19, I'm not sure how many answers I would be able to provide, but I would do my best to answer what I can. So let me go to the chat field. All right, so one question in here is, included? Yes, based on the information that was given from the Department of Health and Human Services and Governor Cooper's mandate, that is a mandate that face masks, cloth face masks are required in the building. That's for students and staff. Now, if there is a student that has a medical documented reason, the guidance is stating that your medical doctor, and this is the same for staff, has to provide an alternative that is acceptable to that cloth face mask. So yes, all students, pre-K students, have been in the building. They have been working with the kids that were there to wear their face masks. Our staff members are wearing their face masks. And I understand that they're pre-K students, so it is going to come off. But the requirement is, yes, they are required to wear face masks in the building, pre-K included. We do know that we have some students that because of we have to provide special attention and even more attention to them. We have some situations where students, it's a little bit harder for them to keep that mask on, but the clear-cut answer to that is yes, they are required. To the next question there, it is in our attention, yes, that the desk shields will be clear, because we don't want the kids hiding behind a tinted screen and doing God what knows, behind that. But yes, that's a great question. They are going to be clear so that they can still keep contact with the teachers, but great question. ECU has a similar COVID attestation that was able to be completed online each day. May this be an option for TES? This makes it an easy document to track attestation clearer on a daily basis. So the attestation, the Google, and you may have typed this before I said it, but the QR code will be placed on our website. So yes, families can complete them online. I hope that answers your question, but yes, we're trying to make it, I'm gonna be honest with you. When the state said you had to fill out this piece of paper every day and to provide it, and one, we're not going to give you a whole sheet, because first of all, who's going to keep up with a whole book? We've designed a form where it's 3 of these on a quarter of a sheet, so it's 4 to a sheet. If we're talking about a virus that's passed through transmission and touching, I'm trying to alleviate as much as that as I can. So that's why the QR code and other electronic features, as I don't know if y'all see the names, so I won't try to call names. As the question in the chat group said, yes, we're trying to alleviate the transmission of paper and devices back and forth. So the QR code is an option, but we still will take paper and pencil for those. But yes, we're doing that so that it will be easier for us to track. When it goes in, it gives us a date and a time. As I stated, let's say we have a meeting that's taking place in the media center at the high school. We will have a QR code just for that area. So when those people come into that meeting, even though it's a small group, we will have a QR code for those individuals that were in that specific room on that specific date, so we can contact trace. I'm gonna move down to the questions. So keep adding them if you have them. As I said, I will provide responses. I can't guarantee that they're gonna be clear answers. Will students and parents still have the option of staying virtual in January? Yes. We will have that option to our families. That will be an option. I will tell you that in the planning phase for January, we have not solidified how that's going to look. I will tell you, though, when we were prepared to open in October the 26th for the elementary school, the model that we were looking at, we were basing our ridership just off of one school. Now we have to think about 3 schools opening up and the ridership there. Now that's where we were coming into the multiple bus routes, because I'm limited on how many students can ride a bus. But yes, there will be a virtual option for our families come January. There will be a form that will have to be completed. That should be going out by the end of this month so that you can kind of start thinking about it. However, it is our goal at the end of this month, the 1st of December, to give you the full plan so that you and your families can look at the full entire document and make that decision for yourself. So it is our goal to give you the whole month of December to be able to look at that, make decisions that you need, but we will be releasing additional information up until that time. But it is my goal to have the full document plan of what school is going to look like for the children's in our 3 locations by December. That does not mean that's the first that you're going to see it. It is that's when I plan to have the full document. Our tech team, we're talking about even going as far as shooting a video of what the first day looks like for those that's going to drop their kids off, kind of walking through the process. So you will see, coming on campus, going through the screening, but I have to wait to do those once we get the screenings and the temperature thermometer checks, we get that information in. So yeah, I answered that one. How are kids coming back in January, staggered or every other week? I will tell you this, that is, I kind of addressed that right then, but I definitely will make sure that I answer this specifically to that question. We are looking at two different models right now. I will tell you, we have not, talking with the directors and the principals, we are very leery of the 1 week on, 1 week off, because that condenses your school year. That also, it shortens your time. I'm not finally saying that's out, because I'm going to be working with the principals to get feedback from the teachers. But a lot of the research that's out there is that 1 week off, 1 week on, you see some issues in the classroom with teachers being able to teach from week to week, because you don't really want to introduce a new complex theory on the week that the kids are home. So we are finalizing that, but that is definitely one of the responses, not a clear answer. Now, I apologize, but that's something that we are still working on so we can give you that information. Will families still be given the option of remote? Yes, I answer that. When is the deadline for that? We will be sending out that survey shortly, by the end of the month. How will it work logistically for students and teachers? Will there be teachers that are assigned only to teach remotely? So going to one of the things I was going to share later, our teachers were informed on yesterday through email that we have a process in place so that we can gather and make preparations for any staff member that has the need to medically have an accommodation. So you will know, and this is nothing new, we shared it in the board meeting the other night, medical accommodations follow under the federal guidelines of ADA. And we have to follow those federal guidances and guidelines. For teachers and employees that have medical documented reasons, we are required by federal law to look through and work through accommodations. The thing, though, that is going across in the guidance that has come from the state of North Carolina and the feds, that accommodation does not necessarily mean that they're teaching from home remotely. The district has to do everything they can reasonably to make accommodations for those individuals that have medical concerns. Now, this is where it gets sticky, because some people believe that the only accommodation that's going to be suitable is to be home working remotely. And that is not the case, and that will not be the case. The district is looking, those individuals that provide us with the proper documentation will be scheduled meetings with Dr. Boone, our Director of Human Resource. We will look at that medical documentation. We will look at what we can provide, and we will have to find a reasonable accommodation that the district can provide. Unfortunately with that, not that I think this is going to be a problem, if we can't find a solution for those individuals, there's only two options left then. The state has authorized us to reduce individual salaries by 2/3, and also we accept resignations. And I know that sounds kind of harsh, but the thing is, the district, the state, and the feds are looking to find ways that we can ensure safety in all of our protocols that we put in place, but we also can find a way to make sure that you as a parent and us as a district have qualified, certified, awesome teachers, which we do in Tyrrell, in front of your children day to day. It could be a situation that if we have a design schedule, going back to my earlier question, where it was asking about the staggered, we're looking at making sure that our schedule allows for the smallest instructional environment that we can. No, I'm not trying to set up classes where we got 2 kids per teacher. I'm not trying to do that, but we want to try to eliminate it, because it is my desire to still practice all social distancing protocols in the classroom to the highest extent that we can. So it could be a situation, let's say you have teacher A that has a document, I need to have an accommodation. Your class could be originally set up on that scale as a class of 10, where a reasonable accommodation is that you don't have 10, you have 5 students in that classroom, and we may be able to look at your schedule working with the principal and put in breaks for you or breaks for those students. So those are categorized, and that qualifies as a reasonable accommodation. But great question. What about rec league athletics? All right, so the question on rec league, because I was made aware that I have seemed to have been the topic of much discussion on Facebook, which has never bothered me a day in my life. But rec league, there was a conversation with myself and the board. Our board instructed me to look at what the county thoughts were, as the county is our funder for Parks and Rec. Many of you know that the Parks and Rec was turned over to the school system several years ago, which falls under my direction. There is a Parks and Rec board that actually supports our Parks and Rec, but they are not a decision-making board. That Parks and Rec board is there to assist Mr. Stalin as he moves through Parks and Rec. The conversation I had with our county manager was that the county would prefer that Parks and Rec mirror what the school is doing because we're utilizing the same space. And so that's why the decision was made that Parks and Rec will follow what the school does. I was made privy to the Facebook, wonderful Mr. Staten, I love him to death. I saw the Facebook post that he made, and I can see where it may have read different to some people, but Parks and Rec will be following and returning in December, just as sports are scheduled to restart with Tyrrell County Schools. So yes, Parks and Rec will follow the same schedule as Tyrrell County Schools. Now, there was a whole lot of conversation around volleyball. Let me explain what was going on with volleyball. We have state guidelines for high school athletic sports. If you know anything about the sports, and I'm sure that everyone up here has seen it, they had to condense the schedule. They condensed football schedule, volleyball practice. They changed all of those schedules, and you have less days to practice and less days to play. What happened with our conference is made up of, we're in the big five, I believe, the Atlantic Five, I think is what was called now. Forgive me if I messed it up, but we have one more team added. Hobgood got added to our conference. So at that conference meeting, all of the ADs were asked the question, who's playing volleyball? At that meeting, the only school that said they were playing volleyball was Beargrass. Beargrass has normally scheduled schools outside of our conference. The conference made a decision then because other school districts in communications with their superintendents and looking at that decision that the other schools in that conference at the time were not playing volleyball. The decision was made. Tyrrell County Schools Board, we looked at it, we made a decision. After the decision was made, it is my understanding that Madam Mesquite came back and said that they wanted to try to play volleyball now. The problem is, Beargrass had already set their schedule in the crunch timeline that the state has already said you can only play. It didn't allow for us or any districts to come back in because the school that was in our conference was only Beargrass, and anybody else that was playing it had already built the schedule. So that threw everybody in questions and concerns and Facebook and all of that. But everybody had made the decision that they did not have the time, they did not have the ability, and the decision was made except for that one school. And so that's what happened with volleyball. Let me go to the next one. I hope that answers. Students will still be given, I answered that one earlier. Yes, there will be an option for families to select the remote option even in January. Moving down to my next questions. What alternatives to mask do you mean? So alternatives to mask, for those individuals that have medical conditions, those are the only people that have an alternative to mask. And that's something that's provided from your medical provider. I am aware in some counties that there has been documentation provided that employees' medical condition did not mean that they couldn't wear a mask. They just couldn't wear it all day. And a reasonable accommodation is scheduling mask breaks for those teachers on agreed upon terms, where another employee will come down and relieve that teacher, let's say every 30 minutes or every 40 minutes, so that that teacher can have the opportunity to remove his or her mask. I have seen in some legal conversations right now with school lawyers, if a face mask is allowable for those with medical conditions, but that is something that has to be taught with your medical provider. And honestly, I need to follow back up with our health department because the local health department has some say in that as well. But I hope that answered that question. But yes, that's between the medical provider and what is approved by the Department of Health and Human Services and the Department of Health in the local district. Reading the question. I'm sorry, maybe you addressed this earlier. Has it been addressed? But for those students on remote only, will the instruction be synchronous with learners in the classroom, or will they be taught during different times, methods than students in the classroom? And will it be the same teachers responsible for both? So great question. So the synchronous issue is a bandwidth issue. The other thing with synchronous instruction is right now, our classrooms are only set up with the cameras that are on our laptop. We investigated how we could retrofit classrooms with speakers and cameras so that teachers can view, or students at home can view, the entire classroom. Budget-wise, that was very expensive. And not within our budget at this time. Even though there's been CARES Act money going down, you're looking at almost $3,000 to retrofit one school to allow for remote instruction with the cameras and the sound system. So to answer that question, as of right now, there will be asynchronous models of instruction taking place. There will be availability for individuals to work with teachers as we move through it. But it is very hard for a teacher to stand in front of this camera for, let's say, 60 minutes. It's easy for me to talk to you because I'm stationary, but if I have a class of 12 and I have to go help Johnny and Susie, I then get out of the camera feed, and your student at home will not be able to see it. So as of right now, it's going to be a combination of sort of what we're doing online, because we do have like the lab set up at the high school that we're utilizing for Beaufort, but our students in those classes are utilizing that. But we're still looking at other ways. But great question. Great question. We're this again may not be a clear answer, but that will be a response. But as of right now, it will have to be asynchronous as of right now, unless we are able to work out something between now and January, which we are still working and planning and looking at solutions to provide the best environment for our students. Can we run through with staff before we actually start school, like have a bus with staff on it and letting them into the building? Great question. Question was, and I was reading to myself, but out loud, can we do a run through using our staff before the actual school starts? Like have buses with staff on it to let them into the building? That's a great idea. That actually falls quite in line with what I was discussing earlier about us doing videos. That could be part of the video, not only training us, but we can all play the students and show our families how we're going to be coming through the building. So that's a great idea. That's something I can add to my storyboard of what we need to get in line. Great question. Next one here I see states, will students most likely still be on an 8-to-1 schedule? I cannot give you a clear answer on that, because now one of the things Mr. David Davenport and our team is looking at with the multiple bus routes, we can't guarantee that right now. We are looking at kind of right now, if we have to run multiple buses, there is a big possibility that all 3 campuses or 2 campuses may have staggered starts, because keep in mind, we only have 9 buses in the district. And so once a bus comes and drops off a load of kids for one school, the way it's planning right now, we're going to then have to go back out and pick up students for the next school, and very well have to go back out and pick up students for the next school. And keep in mind, the state has not given us any additional funding for those multiple routes. So the way that has to be paid, Ms. Carolyn and I have been looking at funding in our local budget to be able to offset, because when the state gives us and appropriates money for the year, they only appropriate for one route. So now we, as Perquimans is doing, my old district and other districts across the state, they are running multiple routes and they're having to fund that out of their local budgets. So that does get very expensive, but I hope that answers or provides a response to that question. Can preschoolers that have family in upper grades sit with them on the bus? So great question. The problem with preschool, they have federal law and state law around preschool. They have to be strapped in this preschool buckles. And on our buses, we only have 2 rows that are retrofitted for those buckles. So any kid that's in pre-K then already has to sit in one of those buckle seats, and I can only put 1 kid in that buckle seat. So it gets very hard for us to put pre-K, because the law will not allow me to take a kid from the high school and them sit there and hold their little brother or sister. The law won't allow it. I have to have them buckled in a seat. But great question. Is there a plan for the possible mental health of our students not being able to socialize with other children as they need to? I can tell you this. Great question. Our student support team, they've been meeting even before now. They were meeting in March and looking at ways that we can best serve our students, because quite honestly, it's just not our students. Our staff are emotionally and mentally strained too. But we are going to look and finalize, and that's a great thing. I see one of our counselors has joined us today, Miss Edge. If you'll make a note of that, let's definitely bring that up. So that's something we can double address during our student service meeting with Director Ms. Kaminsky. I do know that they have been working very hard reaching out to students. One thing that I can share with you now, I don't know if you picked it up in the last board meeting, we have gotten approved by the state that Tyrrell County Schools will now be offering a day treatment center. And that is through a mental health provider that will be stationed here in our school to provide additional resources for our students. We went through this process with Trillium, who is the management agency for our region, and they approved Getting Ready Inc., which is the company that will be providing those services. We're going through the licensure of our building so that they can have the license they need to operate in our building. And that will service additional kids that have either a BIP or IEP, or they have a student referral to address additional mental health needs. So that's one way that we could do it. But the counselors, I would definitely get with our counselors to show that we can lay out a plan to provide you more information as far as the additional resources that they are already providing and anything new. I see Ms. Littlejohn up here. I wish I had a way that I could. Hold on, I can. Hold on, I think I can. Hold on. Miss Edge and Miss Littlejohn, if you could, I know I'm putting you on the spot. Miss Littlejohn, can you, if I give you rights, can you kind of talk about what we've been doing now to meet the needs of our students being in remote status? Oh, sorry, I did the wrong person. Sorry, Miss Sauls, I did you. Hit the wrong button, I apologize. Give me 1 second, y'all.
Okay, could
All
you?
right, Littlejohn, I think I muted you. Are you there?
I'm here. But I kind of missed the question. I came in on.
Are you muted on your side?
No.
All right, let's try Miss Edge. Miss Edge, can you unmute yourself? I see Ebony speaking, but I don't hear her.
I say, Ebony, I can hear you talking. I don't know how good mine will be because I have horrible service at home. But I do know
set y'all up right. And it's probably my fault because I just pulled you in. What I would do is I'll meet with our student service department, Miss Curls, if you can take them out. I'll meet with them, and to that person that asked the question, we'll provide you additional information, not even just for you. We'll make sure we'll put that on our website so families can see it. Looking at the next question, if numbers continue to increase, will we still come back in January? That is a decision of the board and I, and looking at the guidance of our Department of Health and Human Services. I can't give you that answer right now. As many of you on this call are aware, one of our neighboring districts have closed down today and yesterday for 75 on one campus and 35 on another campus of possible exposure. So yes, the numbers are going up. I quite honestly do not know what's going to come out of Raleigh now that we have I would at least say a governor's election that has been called as of right now. I don't know if that's going to have any play in what goes forth for January, but all of this is continuously looking at up-to-date data before we make, and so that we can make the best informed decision. But that is a great question. All right, thank you, Miss Edge. I saw you got me, but I guess I screwed up something on my side. How would a disinfectant of the gym work with all the additional people after school and recs and athletic programs? Who will be responsible for this? Great question. That is one of the things that we are working as a plan with Parks and Rec, because we are very concerned of that fact. Quite honestly, to the person that asked that question, we're working on getting you a device that you can use just for the larger space that you have. But that is going to be a responsibility of Parks and Rec. It may be a situation where we have to work with our custodials on a weekend basis, but that is one of the issues of having it, because quite honestly, even if it's not Parks and Rec, and this is part of the problem with planning, is we can only have the teams practicing at one time. So we have varsity JV and girls at the high school. Well, the numbers from the high school athletic association do not allow for us to have JV and varsity and the girls practicing at the same time. Even right now, they were staggered. The boys would practice early one day and the girls would come in late. Right now, in order for us to meet the CDC and state guidelines, we actually have to look at using the elementary school for basketball practice. The interesting thing was, according to the, and I'm sorry, y'all said y'all could hear them. Oh, it looks like I was muted. I apologize. So, Miss, I was muted on my side. I apologize. I had my volume down. Miss Edge and Miss Littlejohn, we're going to come back to you as soon as I answer this question. That, as the kids say, that was my bad. But that causes an issue if we're talking about having to use the elementary and the middle school, high school campus on top of Parks and Rec. That is going to be a planning issue. So that's all stuff that we have to keep in consideration. Will recess be an option? Yes, we have to have recess. We also will have to have mass breaks scheduled so that students and staff can have those mass breaks. But that was a great question. We are starting LOL and groups. Okay, yes, that's Miss Fox. She was given some information. The LOL group, that is our group that services our ladies. There are contacts that they are working with our ladies to make those contacts to the person that was asking about mental health supports and other resources. And our SEL groups, Ms. Fox did provide that in the system. Who was this here? I think it was a question telling me that y'all could hear him, and I was, yeah, you could hear him, but I was messing up. Not a question, just praying for you all. I know this is tough. Pastor, I can tell you this, we need that. And I'm gonna be honest, I know the whole separation of state and church, but these are definitely praying times. So I appreciate that as it is needed, because I'll be honest with you, there's not a night or evening that does not go by that when I send mine up, I definitely include every staff member in this district, and quite honestly, in this state and in this country, and every student in the United States, because we are all, believing COVID or not, it has all affected our lives. So, you know, I'm not here to debate if it's real, if it's not. I just know that I know people that have passed from it who were perfectly healthy. But what I can tell you is, as a result of it, good or bad, it has changed our world so dramatically that, yes, these are praying times. So now that I realize I had my volume down, I'm going to be quiet and let Miss Edge and Miss Littlejohn speak, since y'all could hear him, but I was messing up.
Okay, can you hear me now? So district-wide, we are still having social emotional groups. We're working with children, we're putting them in groups, they get to talk to one another. We talk about various issues that they may be dealing with. The same thing that we would be doing when we're in school, we're just doing it virtually. If anyone would like for their child to be seen, sorry y'all, would like for their child to be seen by us, we can always have a referral, send us an email, give us a call. You can just call the school and ask for one of us, and we'll see your child.
That's our therapy dog in the background. Miss Edge, you're up.
Pretty much everything that Ebony just said is what we're doing on all three campuses. So I don't really have much to add. I do know that we're still posting information at the elementary school about the core essential big idea for the month. Ms. Helms is posting on Dojo every day, and then sending out the lesson plans to the teachers that I normally would be going in their classrooms and doing, just to be doing during their morning meetings. And then I've been doing the monthly books. I've been reading those and posting a link for those.
Okay. Thank you. Miss Fox, I saw her up. I don't want to leave her. I didn't see Miss Westcott, as I know she's got some, if she's here, I would definitely allow her. Miss Fox, if you're on, could we allow Miss Fox to speak on the middle school? Miss Curls?
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we've got our Save Club being active at the middle school. We started and we'll have activities that students can participate in each month. And then we have other activities that are posted on the school counselor tidbits page. Big thing is connecting families with resources. So if it's something that they feel they need to pursue at a higher level, you know, all of our schools and counselors and social workers have access to referral sources. And of course, if a kid needs to meet one-on-one, we could meet in the building, especially since we'll be returning in a few weeks. Also setting up like a Google Meet with a student one-on-one. Also make sure if your child has an accommodation out there and needs some testing to reach out as well. I give tests to students who need to just kind of leave a regular large meet. So make sure that you're taking advantage of that resource, and the kids all know how to get up with us. I mean, we answer emails and they post things all the time. So unless there's a question, I think that's about it. But if you do want, you'll get letters and information about LOL coming out the next week if anybody wants to refer their daughter.
All right. Thank you for that. And I'm going to try to, I had someone that sent me a question and I answered it in a response, and I'm not quite sure if you can see it. So Ms. Curls, is there any way I could, do I have access to the chat feature where I can share a document with those online? Or if not, what it is, there was a question in the chat group. Thank you. First of all, thank you to the student service team for that response and being Johnny on the spot as I just threw y'all in the mix. But you know, it always say you don't have to get prepared if you stay prepared, and they are always prepared. But there was a question about how would a disinfection of the gym and other additional people in the gym and rec. We talked about that earlier. There was a question about recess and option. Yes. And there were two. Oh, that's what happened. Some questions got missing from me. Will recess be held on the playgrounds? Yes. Recess will be held in the playgrounds on days that we can get out. As we know, we will be in January. And that is a interesting time of the year. But yes, you can. We will be scheduling those. There will be breaks in the building where they can move as well. As we know by law, we have to have, 30 minutes of movement for our students each day. The file that I was trying to send was in relations to, one of the questions was, do student athletes have to wear masks in practice? Well, the last 2 days we've been and thanks to our school board members, they have been attending workshops all week for the last 2 days, as we have been going through our virtual statewide school board conference meeting. And we had a meeting the other day with Commissioner Q Tucker, and Q addressed something that we were just recently made aware of, even though the document has been printed since the 7th of October, but it was not widely disseminated. And that document came from the Department of Health and Human Services in relations to athletics. And they divided all of the sports in the state in 3 categories: green level, yellow level, and red level, which they call the red line. Red line is the Department of Health and Human Services did not agree that those sports should take place. Some of those sports are basketball. Those that had the green light were like golf and fishing and those individual more sports. But that guidance actually contradicts what the High School Athletic Association is saying. And one of the things that Commissioner Tucker told us was, it is very well that if the two organizations come together and get on the same sheet, it could be a requirement that you are required to wear a face mask in practice and during the game. Now, as an old basketball player, I know it don't look like it at 200 and almost 60 pounds, which I gotta lose. It would be very hard to see how we can have athletes play basketball or any other sport with a face mask on. So all of this is changing. I tell you that there is a lighten the way forward document. I mentioned this back in August, that is online. They changed that document, which is the guidance for us. They change that document at least 7 times a week. And so this situation is ever changing. Just as you are hearing things on your job, you're having things explained to you on Wednesday, and then when you get back on Monday, it's totally different. This has been our life since March the 13th. But thankfully, we have the dedicated staff here and experts in our district, and just folks that care and love children. They are willing to do whatever they can to make the safest environment for our students. So let me check here our chat stream and make sure that I address all of your questions. All right, I do not see any more questions. I do see that we're at the 5 o'clock time. Let me first of all thank you for taking time out of your Friday to allow me to kind of just spill a lot of stuff on you. I promise you, as your superintendent, through this, we've identified that I need to be able to expand our communication out and give you more information. So I accept that. And that's something that I'm dedicated to making sure that we give, because you have questions. But I have to hope that you understand I do not have all the answers. I do not have a degree in econometry. What was it? I always mess that word up. But in infectious disease, I don't have that degree, and I don't claim to. But I do know individuals that are way smarter than me in this subject. And I'm going to rely on their insight and their science and their information and input around it so that I can inform the board so that we can continue to make the best decisions moving forward for reopening, and even in reopening, making sure that we keep our students as safe as we can. Can I guarantee you that nothing is going to happen and we're not going to have to shut down? I cannot make that guarantee. But as I said, I guarantee that we will do everything in my power to make sure that not only just our students, but our staff and our community is safe through this pandemic. And are we going to get it right? We're going to try to. Are we going to have areas of improvement? Yes, we are. Because none of us can make a 100% right decision in any of this. But if we go in it with safety and safety and security of our students as the forefront, we will be headed in the right direction. But with that, I thank you. It's 5:01. I thank you for joining us. As you probably just saw the announcement on Facebook earlier this week and the announcement this evening, I plan on doing another update. I honestly may need to change that date, but I will work with Miss Curls to make that adjustment. I've had some things to come on my schedule on that evening of the 10th, but I will make sure that we will come back and we will increase out of this office the communication to our stakeholders on multiple platforms as we provide as much information as we can as it is finalized, or as it changes as it relates to us returning to school on January the 4th. I wish and pray and hope that each of you have a safe and enjoyable weekend. Take time to spend time with your families, but in doing so, please practice the 3 W's. And I appreciate each one of you and your continued support of the students and staff members of Tyrrell County Schools. Have a great weekend.